Okay, we're going to go through Unit 7, Lesson 3, and I've got, shouldn't take too long. Hopefully we'll get through this pretty quickly, and it should make sense. So here we go. First of all, you've got 3 supply shifters and 3 demand shifters. We've talked about these. This is a review. I'm not going to spend time on this. Next, when we get to monopsony, we're looking at imperfect competition rather than perfect competition. So you've got one firm hiring workers. The best way to think of this is like a mining town that hires workers, and so the town controls who it gets to hire, and it becomes, because it's so powerful, it becomes a price setter. That's the way to think of it. And you see some other examples here on the slide of businesses that may be in that position. Okay, so this is the what happens when a firm becomes a price setter. If they hire, if they want to hire at a $4 rate, they're not going to hire any workers. If they hire at $4.50, they're going to hire one worker at $4.50. The marginal resource cost is $4.50. If they hire 2 workers at so we know the total cost of hiring one worker is going to be $4.50 an hour. If they hire 2 workers, total cost is $10 an hour, and the marginal resource cost is going to be $5.50. If they hire 3 workers, that's going to be a total of $16.50, and the marginal resource cost is $6.50. If they hire 4 workers, that's going to cost at $6 an hour, all right? And they have to keep raising the wage for everybody, all 4 workers, if they're going to hire 4 workers. So the marginal resource cost then is $24. So that is going to be $7.50 for the marginal resource cost. To hire 5 workers, they pay $7 an hour. That's going to be $35 for total cost, making the marginal resource cost $11 an hour. $11 total. If they hire 6 workers, they have to pay $8 an hour. That is a total of $48. So the marginal resource cost is $13. If they're going to hire 7 workers, they have to pay $9 an hour. So the total cost would be $63 on the margin. 63 from 48 is $15. And then finally, if they hire 8 workers, they have to pay $10 an hour. So the marginal cost then is 80 minus 63, or $17. So that's how you get marginal resource cost, is you figure out the cost of the total number of workers at the new hourly rate, and then just work on the margin. So there we go. So MRC doesn't equal wage. It actually increases at a higher rate. So this is what it looks like. Firms will hire where MRC equals MRP or MR equals MC, which we know that's what they do all day long. So their hiring choice is here. So that's the quantity that they're going to hire. But the wage they're going to pay is wherever the vertical line representing the quantity hired at MRC equals MRP intersects with the supply curve here. So the wage ends up being WE, and the quantity will end up being down here. So, okay. On this graph, it's going to be they'll hire here, they'll pay the wage here. So the quantity is Q2 and the wage is $9 an hour. And you can see that the monopsony graph is really just the mirror opposite of the monopoly graph. So that if we folded a piece of paper like this, these two graphs would actually match up. Labor unions quickly tend to increase wages and reduce, oftentimes will reduce quantity of workers. So a couple things that unions will do: they'll try and advertise on behalf of the product to convince consumers to buy. They may try and lobby government to increase demand, and they also may try and increase the price of substitute resources. So, for example, they may argue for minimum wage. They tend to be on the side of arguing for tariffs if it's helpful to their constituents. And then you see in this last graph the percentage of workers in unions. This was as of 2014. The percentages generally have fallen even lower than the percentages you see on the graph. And that's it. So, okay. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.